was playing against them. And, when I came to Toronto, they was really, people ask me that question all the time. Who was the greatest player you ever saw? That's not an easy one. I played baseball for a long time, 25 years in the big leagues. When you hang around that long, you see everything. You see old stars trying to squeeze another season out of their legs. You see young kids walk into a clubhouse with that nervous look on their face. Then a few years later, everybody in baseball knows their name. I remember when I first got to Oakland, I was young, skinny kid. I wasn't sitting there thinking about baseball history. I was trying to stay in the big leagues. You come into the clubhouse, throw your stuff down, grab something to eat, and listen to the older guys talk. That was baseball back then. A lot of sitting around, a lot of stories, a lot of card games. Then somebody would say, watch this guy tonight. So you watched. That's how I learned players. Not from numbers. I watched what they did when nobody was paying much attention. Batting practice told you a lot. So did the way a man carried himself after going 0 for 4. Some guys would tear up the clubhouse. Some would sit there quietly, come back tomorrow and hit 2 balls off the wall. I saw plenty of great players that way. And later, when I became one of the older guys, I started seeing it from the other side. Young players would come along and I'd watch them do things I hadn't seen before. Sometimes I'd be sitting in the dugout thinking this kid is going to be around a while. Funny what you remember when the years pass. I don't remember every game. I don't remember every pitcher I stole a base against. I don't even remember half the conversations we had. But certain players, I can still see them walking toward the plate. I can still see the swing. I can still remember sitting in that dugout watching them. So you want 5? Yeah, I can give you 5. George Brett could flat out hit. That's what I remember first. We saw Kansas City a lot back then. Those games had a little something to them. Oakland and Kansas City weren't getting together for dinner afterward. You'd come into the ballpark already knowing it might be a long night. And George was right in the middle of it. I used to watch him doing batting practice. Not because I was studying him or anything like that. Back then, guys just watched other guys. You'd be leaning against the cage talking to somebody and George would start hitting. After a while, you stopped talking. He didn't waste many swings. That's what I liked about him. Nothing looked forced. He hit one into the gap, then another one right back through the middle. He knew where that barrel was. And George played angry sometimes. I mean that in a good way. You could see it when he made an out. He'd come back toward that dugout with that look on his face like the pitcher had gotten away with something. Then 3 innings later, George would come up again and I'd be standing out there thinking he remembers that last at bat. Most good hitters did. George definitely did. There were nights when I'd get on base and have my own little game going with the pitcher and catcher. That was my world. Then I'd get back into the dugout, take off my helmet, grab a drink, and look across the field. George had his own thing going too. Different kind of player, different kind of pressure. But everybody knew where he was in that lineup. That's something you notice when you play against a man enough. You start feeling when his spot is coming around again. Some hitters gave you a little room to breathe. George didn't. And away from all that, I liked him. We were competitors, sure, but there was respect there. When you play that many years, you learn which guys are real baseball players. George was one of those guys, no show needed. Give him a bat, give him 4 chances, and sooner or later you were probably going to see something you didn't like. I saw that plenty of times, more than I wanted to. Cal was funny to me because we were nothing alike. I mean, look at us. I was always moving. I wanted to get on base, take a lead, make the pitcher look over there, make the first baseman talk to me, make the catcher start thinking about something besides the hitter. Cal just looked steady. Every time I saw him, he looked like he'd been standing in the same place for 10 years. Baltimore would come through or we'd go into their park and there he was. Same big body, same quiet way about him. He'd take his ground balls, take his swings, go about his business. I used to joke with guys because, You never had to ask if Cal was playing. Of course, Cal was playing. Everybody knew about the streak after a while, but when you were actually around baseball, you noticed something else. Playing every day is hard. People sitting in the stands don't see the mornings. They don't see a guy getting treatment before anybody else gets dressed. They don't see somebody sitting at his locker rubbing a knee or trying to loosen up a back that doesn't want to move. Everybody hurts. Cal still went out there. That impressed me. And he could play man. People talk so much about him showing up every day that sometimes they forgot the other part. You don't stay in that lineup just because you're tough. You better help somebody win. Cal did. I remember watching him at shortstop and thinking how strange it looked at first because he was such a big man for that position. Then the ball would be hit his way and he'd make the play. No drama, throw across, out. Then everybody went back to work. That was Cal. We weren't the kind of guys who played baseball the same way, and maybe that's why I appreciated him. I like creating noise. Cal could make a whole career out of being steady. Years later, people would ask me what I remembered about playing against him. It wasn't one home run. It wasn't one game. It was walking into a ballpark, looking across the field and seeing number 8 out there again. After enough years, you almost expected him to be there forever. Tony could make you mad just watching him hit. I'm serious. You'd be standing out there in the outfield. The pitcher would make what looked like a pretty good pitch, and Tony would just put the bat on it. Nothing crazy, nothing that made you jump out of your seat. Then the ball was sitting in the grass again. I knew Tony a long time. We were born the same year, so in a way we came through baseball together, different leagues for a lot of those years, different kinds of players, but I always kept an eye on him. Everybody did. You could watch batting practice and understand a little bit about Tony. Some guys went up there trying to hit the ball out of the stadium. Tony looked like he was working. He'd hit one somewhere, then another somewhere else. You started wondering whether he was putting the ball there on purpose. Most of the time, he probably was. I remember hitting around guys like Tony. That man could talk about hitting forever. Pitchers counts where somebody played him what he saw the last time he faced a guy. He remembered things. I liked that. My game was different. I wanted to get on base and turn the whole thing into a mess. Once I got to, first I wanted everybody thinking about me. Tony didn't need any of that. He just wanted that pitcher. There was something almost funny about watching an entire defense know what Tony wanted to do and still not being able to stop him. You'd move a little. He'd find somewhere else. You'd pitch him away. Fine. He'd take it the other way. And Tony always seemed comfortable doing it. That's the part people miss when they only look at numbers. When you played against him, you could feel how little panic there was in his at-bats. Strike 1. Tony was fine. 2 strikes, still fine. He'd foul something off, step out, adjust himself, get back in there. Then here came another base hit. I saw a lot of guys who could hit a baseball hard. Tony knew how to hit a baseball. There's a difference. And every ball player who watched him long enough knew it. Junior made you look. That's probably the easiest way I can say it. By the time he came into the league, I'd already been around for a while. I'd seen enough young players arrive with everybody talking about how good they were going to be. Most of the time, you waited. Let the kid play. Then Junior showed up in Seattle. I remember seeing that swing and thinking, man, where did this kid get that? It looked too easy. That used to bother me a little because baseball isn't supposed to look easy. You spend all day taking batting practice, working on something, getting your hands right, dealing with pitchers, throwing nasty stuff at you. Junior would step in there and swing like somebody had drawn it up. Then he'd smile. That was Junior. He had that young energy about him, head backward, laughing around the cage. He looked like he was having a good time, and I liked that because I always thought baseball was supposed to have some life in it. But once the game started, there was nothing playful about what he could do. I remember being in the outfield and watching balls come off his bat. You knew pretty quick when one wasn't coming back. You didn't even have to run sometimes. Just turn around, watch it. What impressed me more was everything else. Junior could go get a baseball in center field. He'd take off after something in the gap, and you'd think there was no way he was getting there. Then somehow that glove showed up. I understood speed. I knew what speed could do to a baseball game. Junior had that athletic ability, but he made it look smooth instead of frantic. And I watched him grow up. That part stays with me. One day you one of the young guys trying to prove you belong. Then you look around and there's another generation coming through. Junior was one of the first guys who made me feel that I wasn't ready to call myself old. No chance. But I remember looking at him and realizing baseball was changing again. New faces, new stars, kids in the stands wearing different jerseys. And right in the middle of all that was Junior smiling like he'd been there his whole life. Some players were great. Junior was cool. There was a difference there too. Reggie was already Reggie when I got there. That's what you have to understand. I was a young kid coming into Oakland trying to figure out big league baseball, and everybody already knew who Reggie Jackson was. You didn't need somebody to explain him to you. He walked into a room and you notice Reggie liked to talk. Everybody knows that. He had opinions about everything. Pitchers, hitting, clothes, cars, whatever was happening that day, Reggie probably had something to say about it. I liked being around that. Later on, when he came back to Oakland, I got to see him differently, not just as the famous guy I'd watched before. Now he was right there in the clubhouse. That changes things. You see how a man gets ready. You hear what he says after a bad night. You're around him when there aren't cameras standing there. I remember the batting cage. Reggie could stand around that cage talking, hitting with anybody. He'd watch somebody take a few swings, then start telling him what he saw. Sometimes you wanted the advice. Sometimes you didn't. That was Reggie, but he paid attention. And when the game got big, he wanted to be in it. I respected that more as I got older. Everybody says they want the big moment. It sounds good when you're sitting around talking. Then the big moment actually comes. The stadium gets loud. 2 men on. Late innings. Everybody knows who's coming to the plate. Some guys get a little smaller. Reggie seemed to get bigger. I watched that up close. And I saw the other side too. Reggie could strike out and come back to the bench mad as hell. He might sit there for a minute thinking about what the pitcher did to him. But he wanted another chance. Always. That's a ball player. We had different games. I could change the inning with my legs. Reggie could change one with one swing. But there was something about the confidence that I understood. You had to believe you were the man. Reggie believed it. I believed it too. Maybe that's why I always enjoyed him. People can argue about numbers and rankings all day. I'm just telling you what I saw. When Reggie Jackson walked toward that plate, you watched. 5 names. That sounds simple until you start thinking about all the people you leave out. I played with a lot of great ball players, played against even more. Some of those guys became friends. Some I only knew from standing on the other side of the field for a few nights every season. But baseball was like that. You kept running into each other. Same airports, same hotels, same ballparks. You see a guy doing batting practice, say a few words, then a couple hours later you were trying to beat him. I missed that part. People think you missed the big games. Sure, you remember some of them. You remember October. You remember a packed stadium and everybody making noise. But I remember sitting around the clubhouse too. I remember guys playing cards. I remember walking out early and seeing somebody already in the cage. I remember standing on first base talking to a first baseman while the pitcher was pretending not to watch me. Then one day, all of that is gone. You don't really notice it happening. A guy retires. Another guy disappears from the league. Some young kid takes his locker. Pretty soon you're the old player. Everybody keeps asking for stories. George, Cal, Tony, Junior, Reggie, different men, different games. That's why picking five was never about finding five guys who played baseball the same way. I wouldn't want that anyway. The fun was seeing what made each man different. I got to stand on the same fields